Central is in Amsterdam chatting to raw food expert Frances Kenter, who has been a raw food eater now for how long, Frances?
9 years, almost in September, 9 years.
First of all, Frances, a little bit about the journey you've been on.
For me, my spiritual journey started at the same time as my raw journey. Before that, I was fast asleep. I was not aware at all. My children at that time were 12 and 5 years old. The eldest had ADHD, problems with learning, couldn't concentrate. The youngest had asthma. So I said to the kids, why don't we try this for a year? We're going to eat raw for a year. And that's what we did. We are the only mammals, which is what we are if you look at us in terms of species. We are the only mammals, along with our companion animals, dogs, cats, who alter our food from its natural state. Any other mammal will just find its food in its raw state and eat it without doing anything to it. We are the only ones who heat our food up. And we, as far as I know, are the only mammals who die of tumours and cancers and who get Alzheimer and diabetes and all sorts of illnesses, and so do our companion animals. And that's when I realised that, you know, we are not being told the truth about the food that we are buying in the supermarkets. And that really gave me a aha moment. I was like, wow, yes, you know. My youngest son who had asthma, his asthma had gone within 2 weeks. The eldest son with the ADHD and his incapacity to concentrate, gone. The ADHD disappeared, he was able to concentrate. That's one of the things I love about eating raw food, is that it gives you back the responsibility for your own health. You can feel what is happening in your body. And you are not dependent on health officials like doctors to tell you what you should do to be healthy. And that is one of the grumbles I have got with the medical establishment, is that they are very good at some of the things that they do. I mean, if you have a broken bone, if you've been in an accident and your bones need mending, then they know what to do to help you, but they don't know anything about nutrition and health. In their entire education, I think they have like half a day on nutrition and health. My kids, once they got through the initial detox phase of their body's cleansing, they just didn't get ill anymore. I mean, Tom has not seen a doctor for the last, I think, 8 years. We just don't see a doctor because we never get ill. I mean, cooked food is addictive. Something happens to food when you cook it that makes it very addictive. And you have to get through this addiction. It's like giving up smoking or giving up alcohol when you're addicted to alcohol, when you first give up cooked food. And once you're through that, it's a beautiful way to eat. It's a very happy and simple way to eat. Your taste buds change. They literally change. I mean, it becomes almost like an orgasmic experience to eat a really perfectly ripe mango. That's another aspect of raw food, is that it's a much kinder way to eat for the planet. On the same piece of land where you can grow enough plant material to feed like 12 families, you can also graze enough animals to feed maybe like 3 families. So growing plant food on a piece of land, you can feed far more people with than if you grew animals. And also there's a lot of research. I mean, for instance, Colin Campbell with the China study did the most exhaustive research ever and came up, I mean, this is a man who grew up on a dairy farm, Colin Campbell. He grew up with dairy and meat, and when he first started doing his research, he was doing research for the dairy and the meat industry. And by accident, he started looking at the connection of animal proteins and illnesses. And to his enormous surprise, he found out that people do not do well on animal proteins, and a lot of our common illnesses, including cancer, heart attacks, brain infarcts, are caused by animal proteins. And when people stop eating animal proteins, they can switch these illnesses off just like that. And I'm not even talking about eating raw now, I'm talking about eating vegan, you know, about not eating any animal proteins at all. So not only is it better for our bodies, it's better for the planet. For my eldest, it was a problem eating raw actually right from the start. He was 12 when we started. He started secondary school sort of within, I think, within a year of us eating raw. And I noticed this with my younger son when he started secondary school last year. Once kids go to secondary school, something changes for them with their food. He was having his smoothies for breakfast, and then he was being sent to school with apples. And the kids at break time, they go to the snack bar and they go to the supermarket, and there was my Ben with his apples, and kids were, you know, saying, "Oh, there's Apple Boy." And they're teenagers and their bodies are changing and their brains are changing, and they just want to belong to the group. And it just became too much for him. He couldn't deal with it. With Tom, because Tom was so much younger, young kids still have their instincts about food. We all made our own salads at night. Everybody chose what they put in their salads. And the first, I think, 6 months, all Tom ate was broccoli and tomatoes. Now, incidentally, broccoli is very good for children with asthma. So already he knew instinctively what food to choose that was good for the problems that his body was experiencing. From the moment we started eating raw, I never had a problem with Tom eating his food. Whereas Ben, being older, his taste buds had already been ruined with cooked food, and he was already addicted to cooked food. So for him it was much harder, the whole journey. And so with Tom it's been far easier. That was all fine until Tom went to secondary school, and that was last year. And that's when I noticed the change happening for him as well. It was too much for him to eat different, and that's when I decided that I would take him out of school. As a parent, we have the responsibility to teach our children and to feed our children to the best of our ability. And if you're convinced, like I am, that certain foods will harm our children's health, then how can you say to your kids, it's all right, you know, eat some of it? It becomes too hard when you have your kids in normal society to keep them eating like that. So you have to make a choice at some point, and the choice I've made is to take Tom out of school. You know, to keep him eating raw for a bit longer. He needs to learn to make food choices for himself. And I'm hoping that if I can keep him going along the raw path for long enough, that at the point where he starts making his own food choices, that it will be so ingrained, and he will understand why he's doing it, that he will make good choices for himself. But it's the reason why, you know, I need to get Tom out of the school system. And I'm telling you, in Holland, once your kid is in the school system, it is very hard to get him out. Legally, as far as I understand it, we are entitled to give our kids the kind of schooling that fits in with our beliefs. And I, over the years, have become someone with holistic beliefs, because that's what happens. When you start eating raw, it's not just the food. You start looking at everything from a different point of view. Because you take responsibility for your own health, you also start taking responsibility for the environment, for, you know, it becomes, you suddenly start seeing the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is whole, and you become a holistic person. And you start noticing that what kids are being taught at school is not a holistic thing either. You know, they're teaching them the wrong things about religion, we're being taught the wrong things about society, and so it wasn't just about the food, it's also because I don't like what kids are being taught at school, and I don't want that for my children anymore. I applied to take Tom out of the school system last year, and I was not granted permission, and I was told I was not allowed to homeschool him because he's already been in the system, and that I had to put him back into school because otherwise, you know, I would be committing a crime. There are so many children at the moment who've got ADHD, who are being sent to school, what they call in Holland, with a backpack. It means they're taking Ritalin. They're not allowed to come to school unless they take their Ritalin, because otherwise the teachers can't deal with them. Ritalin, yes, it calms them down, but it also kills their emotions. They cannot get in touch with their own emotions anymore. And I get parents who come to my market store, who come and they say to me, I don't know what to do. You know, I can see what this Ritalin doing is doing to my child. But at the same time, I don't know how to deal with my child if it's not taking the Ritalin. And I'm saying, just change it. It's as simple as changing the child's diet. It hurts to see children who are suffering. All I want to do is get this information out there and say to people, what you do with it is up to you. You know, in the end, we all need to take our own responsibility. But people do not have the information. This information is being withheld from us. I believe that we are deliberately being given food that makes us ill. Most of the food that is in the supermarket is food that makes us ill. It is overprocessed. There are additives in it, there are chemicals in it that are affecting our brain. We are being dumped down by the food that's being given to us. And then we need medicines to make us better. Right at the top of what kills us is medicine. Mistakes made in hospital is number 2. This is a whole world that I don't believe is accidental. You know, doctors, when they become a doctor, they have to take the Hippocratical oath. Well, I call it the hypocritical oath, you know, and this oath is, first of all, do no harm. And that's what they're doing. They are harming us. I believe there are lots of doctors out there who feel a calling to become a doctor because they are healers. And this is how the only way they find to follow their calling. And all they want to do is good. But there are also doctors out there who are in the pockets of the pharmaceutical, companies, and who are pushing pills. I don't believe it's necessary to take chemotherapy to cure cancer. We all have cancer cells in our bodies, all of us. And they're switched on and off by the diet that we eat. As simple as that. We do not need medicine. But if we all learn how to cure our diseases without medicine, then a lot of people are going to be very much out of pocket. You know, and if you believe that political parties are getting a lot of money from the pharmaceutical companies, you know, it's all the way from the top down. School got very worried and asked me to take Tom to the Amsterdam Medical Center and have him checked out. And I had a feeling that it wasn't a voluntary thing, that I didn't have much choice in that, and that also if I believe that the diet I'm feeding Tom is so healthy, I should be willing to have that checked out. What I didn't realize at that time is that you go to the hospital, you get a doctor who doesn't know an awful lot about nutrition and health, and a dietitian who's still working with the schijf van 5, you know, in Holland, where you have to eat meat and where dairy is very much a part of
5 food groups.
That's it, the 5 food groups, yeah. And that dairy is your means of getting calcium into your body. I ended up in big discussions about. I think anyone with a little bit of sense can go on the internet and find lots of studies being done about countries where people eat a lot of dairy products having a high incidence of osteoporosis, and countries where not a lot of no dairy produce is being used, like in Japan, where there is no osteoporosis at all. And Tom is eating a lot of chia seeds, and chia seeds have got 7 times more calcium in them than dairy products. So I'm convinced that Tom is getting all the calcium he needs. But the doctors in the hospital do not agree with me, and they wanted me to change his diet. And in the end, you know, we just couldn't see eye to eye about it, and they reported me to the Child Protection Agency. So then you get investigated by the Child Protection Agency. You know, we had lots of talks and things like that, and in the end, I could not convince them either that you know what I'm doing with Tom is working, and they took me to court. The first court case was in October. I won that court case. I convinced the judge that, you know, Tom's diet is not harmful to him, and they were worried about him not getting enough of the fatty acids that he needs for good brain development. I'm convinced that he gets all the omegas he needs for his brain development, and Tom is a bright child. There's nothing wrong with him, so I don't share the worries that the hospital have, and that's where you get but the doctor knows best thing. And I'm saying, in this case, the doctor does not know best. I know better because I have been studying this for 9 years, and the doctor has only been studying this for half a day, in all his medical education. And that's where judges start looking at you like that. But hey, hold on, lady, this is the doctor talking, and the doctor knows best. And that's what this whole process has constantly been about, that I am not, I'm not being taken serious. I'm being put down as this mother who has gone overboard, who is fanatical about food, and her child needs to be protected from her, because I am being depicted as a slightly crazy mother, and my child needs protecting from me, both emotionally and physically. We won the first court case, but the judge said he was worried about Tom's emotional development and about Tom's school situation. So he wanted to see us again in 6 months' time. And so we went back the second time with experts on homeschooling. I mean, there have been so many reports done about kids being homeschooled, especially in the States, and how well they are doing and how well they go back into, regular schooling, so universities, stuff like that. There is lots and lots of research being done that's been also done by Dutch researchers, and we gave it all to the judge. I mean, there was no way that this judge could look at all this research and not think like, this is fine, there's nothing wrong with this, and he found against us. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if they got to him and said, this. So now I've had a guardian appointed. And I am sailing very close to, if I don't go with what this guardian wants. I mean, I had a letter last week saying that I've got my first appointment with the guardian next Thursday, and then we're going to talk about what they think I should change in the way I'm raising Tom.
This is someone you've never met before?
This guardian.
And they're going to come and tell you how to raise your child?
Yes.
Okay, that's an important point.
Yeah, it is. What the judge has done is he has appointed a guardian, and this is binding. I've just read through the booklets that comes with the letter that tells me, how this whole process works. I'm supposed to turn up there next week with Tom. The guardian is going to look at our situation and at the worries that the Child Protection Agency has got about Tom's growing up, and what they want me to change so that Tom can grow up safe and healthy. Because they're saying that at the moment he's not growing up safe and healthy with me. I've no idea at this point what they're going to want me. They're going to want me to change his diet. If they're going to go as far as to say that they want me to start feeding him dairy products, or if they want me to start feeding him cooked food, I don't know at this point. All I know is that if Tom has to start eating dairy products again, within no time he will start. Dairy products are very mucus forming in the body. If you drink a glass of milk, if you notice that mucusy feeling in your throat, that's what it does in your body. And it's put a layer of mucus in your stomach, and it puts a layer of mucus in your intestines, and then you cannot absorb the good things in your diet. Most of your absorption happens in your intestines. Your intestines are the seat of your health. That's where health happens. If your intestines are not working properly, you cannot be healthy. That's why if you get problems with your skin, like rashes or spots or something, that is a sure indication that your intestines are not functioning properly. And most people walk around with a layer of plaque, mucus, inside their intestines because of all the crap that we eat that's being deposited in there.
Frances, you've got a court case coming up. Let's talk about that.
Another court. We're appealing the second court case. And I'm obviously trying to get rid of this guardian shit going on. At the same time, I've got to be very careful because I am one step removed now from having Tom taken away from me. That could be the next step.
What is your consequence for what comes next?
What's happening now is this guardian thing. And this guardian, what it says in the booklet that came with the letter is, the guardian will work with me. They will listen to what I want, but in the end, their decision is binding, and I have to go along with it. If I do not work with them, then in the end they will take that would be the next stop. They will take Tom away from me. Now I have to be very honest and say that the situation I am in now I brought on myself. I could have avoided this situation by right from the off, when they started checking up on us. I could have said, look, you know, I give Tom meat once a week. He drinks milk a couple of times a week. And then this whole thing would have blown over just like that. I am choosing to walk this path because I believe I want to create a world where our children can eat a healthy diet without feeling that they are so odd, they are so far removed from all the other kids that it becomes emotionally impossible for them to do so. And I believe that there are so many mothers out there who are looking to find a better way to feed their children. And for those mothers, I am doing this. And for my own children, I am doing this. You know, I could have backed away from this, but this is my path. This is what I want to do. What I'm doing is already, you know, I'm already doing something with it. So in that way, it feels like not a negative thing what's happening with me. It feels like it's enabling me to tell the story that I want to tell. One of the things I want to do is I want to go to America. America is where hundreds of children are being raised on a raw diet. Almost all these children are being homeschooled for the same reason that I'm going to homeschool Tom, because the parents find that it is impossible to have your kid in a normal school system and feed them a raw diet. It does not work. In America is the Hippocrates Center, where Brian Clement has been doing research into raw food and health for the last 30 years, where people go with cancer and they're being taught how to heal themselves of their cancers by changing their diet. In America is Colin Campbell, who I want to contact, and I want to say, Colin, I know Colin, after he did his research on the China study, changed his diet to vegan, and I believe he's now interested in changing his diet to raw vegan. And I want to ask him to start a big study on children eating raw, children eating cooked vegan, children eating cooked vegetarian, children eating what they call SAD, standard American diet, you know, and compare their blood value, compare their blood values, and compare how they're growing. And that's one thing they're saying. Tom is so small because he's not producing enough HGF-1 hormone, which is a growth hormone. And funnily enough, in the China study, Colin Campbell says that HGF-1 hormone is produced under the influence of dairy and meat, animal protein, and that if you eat too much animal protein, you will eventually get cancer. So is it good for children to have lots of HGF-1 hormone circulating in their blood? You know, is Tom's standard a good standard? Or is Tom's standard a bad standard? You know, Tom's blood is being compared to the standard, kids eating a standard diet. And that standard may not necessarily be a good standard. So that is something that I think if this guardian who is being appointed wants me to go back to the hospital, that's what I want to say to the hospital doctor. I want to say to the hospital doctor, instead of you telling me how I should change Tom's diet, how about you and me and maybe the experts in America, you know, start looking at what I am doing. Because this year, whilst this whole research this whole investigation has been going on, I've been asked questions, and why do you do this, and why do you do that? And I've come up with loads of information, and not one single person has looked at the information I've given them. Not one. They've constantly said to me, but Tom needs, according to what we know about diet, what the standard dietitian says, he needs this, he needs that, and I am saying, no, from what I have found out, he needs this, that and that. And nobody has taken the trouble to look into what I've been saying. You know, I've not been taken serious. I'm being treated like a stupid child, instead of a serious mother and woman who takes her responsibility as a mother very, very seriously. You know, I do not play Russian roulette with my children's health. I have researched this, and nobody is respecting that and taking that serious. Not the judge, not the people from the Child Protection Agency. So when I'm going back to the hospital, that's what I'm going to say to them. I'm just going to say, people, please, you know, let's do this together then. Surely you must be interested as well in what I have found out. And yeah, I know the pharmaceutical company is not going to like what I'm doing. You know, have you guys covered the Codex Alimentarius?
Yeah.
Right. You know, that ties in with what I'm doing. If the National Alliance for Health does not win their court case in England that they're working on at the moment, then in another 3 years' time, I will not be able to eat raw anymore, because all the vegetables and fruit will be irradiated and there will be no life force left in it.
I think the thing that saddens me the most about this is how you've taken such a conscious effort to do all the best things for your children, and yet people are trying to take your kids away, and that is absolutely heartbreaking.
It is, but it's interesting. It's interesting. I think a lot of people believe that in Holland we live in a very free and easy country. You know, why is all this happening? You know, yes, there are children who need to be protected from their parents. Absolutely, there are children. There are children dying every year who are being mistreated and who are being cruelly. But at the same time, you know,
why are you being targeted?
Exactly. Why are they putting their energy into
Why do you
this?
think you're being targeted, Frances? Be honest about it.
Well, to be very honest, because they don't know. They just basically do not know. And I understand, you know, that they believe that children should be fed in a certain way because that's what they've been taught. You know, I was taught that as well. And when I first started raising my children, I did it the way they did it. Same as lots of people believe you need to be vaccinated, you know, and we already know that you don't need to be vaccinated. Most people just very simply, they don't know. At one point, the whole world believed the world was flat, you know? And you can almost compare that as well, you know, everybody we're so used to thinking that food needs to be cooked. But we're also very used. That's another thing about our doctors. They're all being taught according to what Louis Pasteur found out a couple of 100 years ago. And Pasteur said toxins, microbes come into the body and they make us ill. But at the same time that Pasteur was doing his research, there was another doctor called Paul Béchamp. Lived exactly at the same time. They were colleagues, and he said no. He said it's not the microbes coming into the body; it's the terrain. If the terrain is balanced, then the microbes can't do any damage. And what he meant was our body needs to be alkaline. It needs to have a certain alkalinity, and if it's alkaline, then microbes can come into it, but they won't make us ill. The body can deal with it, even with cancer cells. Cancer cells will only start multiplying in an acidic environment. So, and most people are too acidic. If you drink coffee, you acidify your body. If you look it up, I don't know the figures, you know, off the top of my head, but cola, how acidic that makes your body. Meat makes your body acidic. Smoking makes your body acidic. Worrying makes your body acidic. You can eat the most alkaline diet in the world like I do, but if I'm constantly stressing out about this court case, I'm still going to make my body acidic and I will eventually make myself ill. So thinking happy thoughts, positive thoughts, is the #1 key to being healthy. The emotional aspect is more important than the physical aspect. The food comes in the second place. The emotions come in the first place. Anyway, so that's what Paul Béchamp said. But Pasteur came from a very rich family. And with his money, he managed to get his teachings accepted. And you can find this on the internet. When Pasteur died, he came back on what he said, and he said, I was wrong. Paul Béchamp was right. He said it's the terrain. But by that time, what he'd been saying had already been accepted, and all our doctors are being trained according to what Pasteur said, and they're all being trained to look for microbes as what is making us ill. Instead of saying, so the doctor, what he does is he treats illness, but he cannot teach us how to make healthy. So that is where a doctor goes wrong. If you're ill, the doctor can give you something to make you not ill, but he cannot make you healthy. And that's because they're approaching the problem from the wrong side. And you know, and that's why what I'm being said is not being taken serious. But I am determined to be taken serious, one way or another.
It's very interesting to note that we actually have absolutely no control over how we raise our children.
When your child is born, as a dutiful citizen, you go to the town hall and you register your child. And at that moment, when you register your child does not belong to you anymore. It belongs to the government. So my child does not belong to me. I heard a terrible case the other day of a little boy in Holland who had leukemia, and his parents wanted to try and go the alternative route. They did not want chemotherapy and radiation. And they were immediately had their child taken away, and he was forced. But this is happening in America all the time. If you think that what's happening to me is strong, go to America. If in America they find out that you're raising your child raw, you'll have the police on your doorstep. They will take your child away. It goes, there is not even a court case, I think. Or the court case comes after. Child is taken away first. So everyone in America raising their child raw is keeping a low profile. They don't want people to know that they're doing it. So that's another thing I'm hoping to if I win my court case, or when I win my court case, I will go all the way to the European Court as I need to. I hope to set a precedent, you know, for all the people all over the world feeding their kids raw. And I'm going to call on the raw leaders. You know, there are people out there doing the research, the big shots, Brian Clement, David Wolf, Gabriel Cousins. I'm saying, guys, we need you. The mothers in the world who are trying to raise their kids raw, we need you, because we're being attacked and we risk having our children taken away.
Francis, thank you very much for your time today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
If there's people that are watching this that want to change their diet, what the first things they should change?
Yeah, well, first of all, there is so much information about eating raw. There are so many websites that you can find. I would start by changing your breakfast for an all-fruit breakfast, and then, if you can, for lunch, again, you know, like for snacks, have fruit for snacks, have smoothies for snacks, and for lunch, have a nice big salad, and try and keep it raw until evening. And then come dinner time, again start with something raw, a salad. There's been scientific evidence that when you eat cooked food, your body reacts to the food by producing a lot of extra white blood cells. And the body, that reaction, I can't remember what it's called, but it means that the body thinks that a foreign invader is coming into the body. Yeah. So the body sees the cooked foods as a harmful invader. But if you eat something raw at the same meal as a cooked meal, but you eat the raw first, then the body does not have that reaction to the cooked food afterwards.
Oh.
So if you're going to eat cooked, eat, like for instance, some salad first, then eat your raw meal, your cooked meal, and obviously try and keep your cooked meal as healthy as possible. I would advise people to start by cutting out. Start by not drinking coffee. People say, yeah, but it gets me nice and awake. What coffee actually, it's such a toxic substance to the body that the body has a reaction to it, a panic reaction. And that's what makes people feel like, oh wow, it's got me all perked up and I'm wide awake. But it's actually the body is sort of going in total overreaction to something that is so toxic. And people are so out of touch with, you know, their bodies, that they think that this is a positive, nice, awake feeling. I would start leaving out the coffee, then stop eating alcohol. If you're going to drink alcohol, drink some wine. Wine is raw. Beer is pasteurized. And a raw alcohol is better than a cooked alcohol. and I would keep the alcohol, you know, I very, very, very occasionally drink a little bit of red wine. Not so much because I really particularly want to or like it, but sometimes I'm with people and they're like, oh, come on, Fran, you know, we're all together and social gathering, and I only need a tiny little bit of wine to feel the effect of it, of course. And I don't particularly like how it makes me feel anymore. That's another thing about eating raw. It is such a buzz mentally. You know, you're so much more in tune, you're so connected. You know, why would I want to? I believe that people go for drugs. Now that feeling you get on ecstasy, I don't know if you guys have tried it, but you get this enormous rush where you feel that everyone who's in the room with you, that you're connected, that you love them. But guys, we are connected. We are all one family. We are all the same. That feeling you get on ecstasy, we should have naturally all the time. We should have this natural feeling of being connected. But because the food we eat and the things we do, we feel disconnected. We don't realize anymore. And when you start eating raw and you raise your vibration, you start feeling this connection again. But I believe that people take these drugs because they know, deep down, they know there is something missing in their life. This feeling of connection has gone. They're not feeling it. And when they take the drugs just for a little while, they can feel this connected feeling again. But I don't, this feeling I used to get on ecstasy, I now get, for instance, when I take the gold. You know, and being raw and the gold, man, I feel as connected as I feel beautiful. So why would I want to, you know, why would I want to take alcohol, which is only going to lower this feeling of being connected? So it's a big buzz to be on a raw food diet. It wasn't until this whole process I just talked to you about got started up that I ever doubted the fact that I was not free. Because like a good citizen, I was just, you know, behaving like a good citizen. And it just never occurs to you that you don't have the freedom to do what you want to do. And it's only now that that the authorities are beginning to meddle in how I raise my son, that I'm beginning to realize that maybe I'm not as free as I always thought I was. And, you know, I'm just beginning to discover that maybe we're not as free as we thought we were. And for me, I think I'm going to find out pretty soon how free I am.
Frances, thank you very much for your time today. It's been an honour and a privilege to have you share your information with us, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.